Okay, it is Wednesday, November 13th at 5:30 PM. With a quorum present, I will call the November City of Wausau Economic Development Committee meeting to order. So first on the agenda are public comments. Is anyone here for public comment? Looks like not. Okay, then we will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of minutes from the October 1st, 2024 meeting. Committee members, did you all have a chance to look them over, and any questions, comments, changes?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve?
Approve.
Okay, thank you. Alder Hinkie, second by Alder Killian. Okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no opposed, so that passes and the minutes will be on file then, put on file. Agenda item number 3 is discussion and possible action on the development agreement between the City of Wausau and Ash Properties LLC for 180 East Wausau Avenue. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Chair. Just at first, we'll kind of go back through the history of this because it's been a long time since the beginning of this project, and just to get everybody up to speed on everything. In 2022, following a request for proposal process, the city sold the property at 180 East Wausau Ave to Ash Properties for $40,000. The proposal name Infuse was accepted and the sale took place on August 19th, 2022. As part of the sale, the city required deed restrictions, including an option for the city to repurchase the property at the original sale price, plus the cost of any structural improvements, if the owner failed to complete the construction as outlined within the proposal within 1 year of closing. Excuse me. In spring of 2023, it became apparent that Ash Properties would not meet the original construction deadline. And on July 11th, 2023, the City Council approved a 1-year extension, moving the deadline to August 19th, 2024. However, as part of the extended deadline, as of the extended deadline, the project remained incomplete and the property is in default of the deed restrictions. City staff met with Mr. Aschenbrenner and his contractor on August 27th, 2024 to assess the project's progress in advance of the discussion at the September Economic Development Committee. Upon reviewing the property and discussing the project with Mr. Aschenbrenner, city staff observed several deviations from the original proposal. The original RFP submission is included in the packet for reference. Mr. Aschenbrenner has declined to provide documentation on the structural improvement costs. To address the delay and modification, city staff, in consultation with the city attorney, worked in good faith with Mr. Aschenbrenner to draft a development agreement to bring the project to completion. The agreement provides extended deadlines for completing the project according to his original 2022 proposal. Notably, Mr. Aschenbrenner has already obtained partial occupancy for a section of the building. The agreement establishes new milestones for completion in 2025 and 2028, ensuring the remaining improvements are finished according to the original plan. Tonight we will be reviewing and taking action on the development agreement that has been included in the packet. Mr. Aschenbrenner is here tonight and has provided a presentation if the committee would allow.
Sure, Mr. Aschenbrenner, any opposition, committee members? Nope. Okay, Mr. Aschenbrenner, if you would like to come forward.
Thank you. So I'd like to just kind of help to further bring people up to speed because of essentially the progress that has been made at the building. So to start off with, and there's a lot of photos we're going to go through quite quickly, but the photos can be used in reference as it relates to question and answering, which I know is going to come up. So this is essentially an artist rendering of what Infused was designed to be. If you continue to the next page, this is what we started off with. Which most of you are probably familiar with, but some of you had, weren't part of this in 2022. And so this is essentially the space. Is there a way to go to like a print page mode? Because then you can just click one at a time. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wondered how the light went off.
Because a lot of this stuff is just pretty rapid fire.
Do you know? I don't know which one it would be, I guess.
Try clicking the Full screen mode, yeah.
Full screen mode?
Try.
Where is that?
Yeah. 3 more down.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Okay.
go.
Perfect, thank you.
Yay. Okay. So this is what the property looked like when we started. If you could click forward to the next photo. The next photo essentially shows, because there's a picture in the original request for proposal about glass overhead doors, and so that's why I show the original view of what that looks like looking off into the riverfront. The next photo is just another picture of me in terms of at one of what are now glass doors. The next photo goes into the discussion about structural improvements, including exterior improvements. And so that is a photo of all the doors that were on the exterior, which were rusted away. You can see that there was a significant gap and there was no ability essentially to keep the building well heated. So all the doors were improved upon and replaced. If you move ahead 2 photos. So the original request for proposal was a piece of graph paper. And at that point in time, I think there was a lot of debate that could have been done about what this actually meant, because I think that that goes into the deviation of the original request for proposal. And prior to the extension granted last year, if you go to the next page, please. I think you went backwards.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
okay.
Oh my gosh, what is going on?
Wrong way.
Why is it doing that?
We submitted actual engineered design to the city. I think that this may be confusing for me. When I submitted these plans to the city, it was submitted through the city's inspector's office. If I was supposed to go through common council first, then, you know, I apologize for that. But the city inspector's office, Bill Herbert, essentially signed off on this, and we had an exact plan at that time. So this was prior to the extension being granted last year. And then from that, we began to build what we planned on building. So if you can move forward 1, this is just a quick, another photo. This is just a quick photo of essentially the studs, so you can see how this project is kind of coming to fruition. And then the next photo is roughly where we were at come that August deadline. So we were close, but definitely not ready for occupancy. And the next few photos just show where we were at that time. We can go through those pretty quickly. There's a photo that's coming up that's going to have a bunch of overhead lights. So that's where we're at today. So we are completed. We are at occupancy, and we have fulfilled exactly what we said in our engineering plan, which is obviously different than what was on the piece of graph paper, but it's gorgeous. And if there's issues associated with that, I'm very open and willing to take criticism and try to modify what we can modify. If you move forward, you'll see that there's more photos of the space. And we have completed 2 bathrooms. And this is the photo of essentially looking back out through those doors. This looks pretty much like the photo that was submitted in the request for proposal that has the 2 glass overhead doors. And so we're trying to just say that we felt like we did the best that we could do in what we wanted to do. And so we're not trying to dupe anybody at all. To move forward, because there's the comment that's made about occupancy of part of the building. So the south side of the building in the original request for proposal was used to grow herbs, vegetables, and fruit trees. And that was used, the south side of the building is used to help to basically run the business of the north side of the building, which is make these mocktails and, you know, have herbs and stuff, you know, ready for the events. So in terms of the south side of the building, we're going to get into that with the language. We use it as a construction space, and now that space is open, and if you move forward another one, we're starting to grow plants. And so we're doing what we said we would do, which is grow plants and herbs. You can see that in addition, you can move through a couple more that of other plants and herbs that we were growing. We have a large part of that space that is just for equipment. There's a compost pile that's in the corner. There's a tractor that we use to help to basically serve the needs of the plants on the north side. And so the south side of the building is essentially completed. In addition to the south side of the building being completed, we said that we would have a fully functioning kitchen as it relates to a caterer's kitchen. And this is our fully functioning caterer's kitchen, which has been signed off by the inspectors, is essentially reaching occupancy. And that's alluded to in some further conversation as it relates to this development agreement. So now we're going to push to the exterior. And I think that this is really, with the last 2 months, the conversations that I've been trying to have to get clarity. And that is one of my goals tonight, is to get better clarity. So in the request for proposal, we stated that there would be hardscape planters and that exterior materials would be used to change the complement of the existing structure and enhance the overall look. We attached 2 photos, which were photos F and G. And ultimately, we stated that we were going to improve the exterior. So this is the exterior. The exterior is improved. It is obviously an industrial building that has been zhuzhed up to look better, but I think that that's where we're trying to seek a little more clarity as it relates to this development agreement, because if the exterior is not complete to the satisfaction of the city council, I need specific guidance to help me know what I need to do. And so this photo that's right there of the exterior door, which is our entryway, is pretty similar to what was attached in the request for proposal, where we have new doors, essentially a new frame. We have a cedar wood around that frame, and that is very similar. If you go to the next photo that shows the close-up to it, so I think it was like photo F and G in the original request for proposal. So we're trying to nail the overall look. If you move forward to the next photo, these are our hardscape planters that are installed. We have plants that are growing in there. And then the other key component to that was the greenhouse. So the construction of the greenhouse, I wanted to show the exact blueprints and dimensions of the greenhouse that, we have. And if we need to somehow make that greenhouse different, I'm open to suggestions, but that's essentially where we're at. And I kind of had this ready because part of the development agreement was to come to council to talk about what my plan was to do this. So that's why I have all these pictures, is that's what my plan is to do. So if we could go to the next photo, and again, all this is there. The greenhouse is sitting there, it's all there. The one part to the north of us is the electrical substation. We have a fence that's there right now. That was all signed off through by Bill Herbert, and that was actually installed on Friday. And so I just didn't have time by the time that the committee was ready. So that's taken care of. So if you go to the next photo, this gives another appearance of the exterior structure of the building. And then what I did is, for the next photo present, is I took a pano of where my building is. And so this is the view to the north, which is obviously very industrial, because that's where we're at. Next photo, this is my view to the west. Next photo, this is the view to the south. So there's not anything unique to our building as it pertains to where it lies within the city. I'm open, and really that's why we're here tonight, is to kind of talk about this next step as to what we need to do. Because at this point in time, I feel that we have met the needs of the request for proposal, and if other people feel differently, I'm open to suggestions.
Excuse me. Where is the do you have a photo of the greenhouse or not?
I don't, it was installed on Monday.
Okay.
So just 2 days ago. Sorry, everything's been a kind of a blur. So yeah,
Okay.
it was installed 2 days ago. So it's physically sitting on the property right now.
Okay. Committee members, questions? Alder Killian.
A question for Randy. Randy, based on the agreement that's currently in place, what is your perspective of where everything stands? What is completed that needs to be completed, and what isn't? That's what I would like to know first.
I would say with the agreement that we currently have placed, the only agreement we currently have placed is the deed restrictions on the property. So if you're talking about the proposed development agreement that's in your packet,
I am.
I would say that with some of the changes that he's completed, especially with that south side of the property, he has met the intent of what his proposal is with the plants in that area. When I look at the facade, I look at what has been discussed. I think that there's more that we anticipated would be done with that, especially within his proposal. In it's image F, which talks about the siding being updated. The greenhouse, and I did see the greenhouse that's on the property. It's greenhouse, meets the definition of that, but within the proposal, it was noted a greenhouse addition will create additional communal space as well as growing space. It would be a very tight space for communal space, but I think he's met the minimum definition of that.
Okay. Dr. Ashbrenner, it's my understanding, and I appreciate the pictures that you provided
Yeah.
of the industry around you and the way it looks around you, but I think that's an area that the city is wanting to develop into something that is less industrial, from my understanding.
Sure.
And I personally had the impression that there might be more done to the exterior to make it look less industrial. And I don't know that that would, not being a contractor, I don't know if adding some additional wood or brick or something to that building, not only on one side, but the side that faces the third, I think it's Third.
I think you're trying to describe the side that faces 180 East Wausau
Right.
Avenue. Yeah.
So
So that's the south side of the building.
yeah, it's my understanding that it would be very nice if we could see that building look a little less industrial. That was my impression. And the things you've accomplished are very nice.
Yeah.
But it still looks pretty industrial, and again, that's why I'm asking what the requirements are, so that I'm not asking for something out of line.
Sure.
But I would like to see something that makes it look a little less industrial personally.
Yeah, so my response to that is in the development agreement that you guys have, the point that says, whereas the purpose of this document is to codify into a development agreement exactly what the owner and the city agreed to do, your points are well taken, but I need something more exact from that regard. And so to say we would like to see an improvement, I understand that. I want this business to be successful. If I make an improvement, but that falls short because it's falling short, it's already fell short. So now I'm a year down the road with the same situation that I'm in right now, and it makes it look like I've now failed again. So that's why I'm here, is because having done this project and to acquire the labor, the finances is one thing, but to acquire the labor, 1 year may not be enough to completely transform the south side of that building. And to do so, I'm going to have to potentially strip off all of the siding, which is going to leave it extraordinarily barren. I'm going to have to, as per the deed restrictions, because we can't have trailers and trucks overnight, I'm going to have to move all of that project indoors, which is going to disrupt the south side of the building and the growing. I can do that somewhat, but the cost to that can be extraordinarily high, probably as much as what my original request for proposal was. And so that's where I don't know how to move forward until I have something a little more exact to know. And unless somehow there's an estimate or there's an actual engineering plans that we have, it's hard for me to say I'm going to improve upon it. I'm going to, as the time goes on, obviously the planters are going to start growing things that are going to grow, and then it's going to look more beautiful, and that's something that's going to happen. But to that specific request, I respect that. I just don't know where to take that from a legal document that is supposed to really clarify what has become a gray, murky subject.
Not being a contractor, I don't know if you can add wood to steel siding without removing the siding. I don't know if you can add bricking at all, any kind of natural product that would make it look less industrial. So those were my thoughts about
Sure.
making it look less industrial. I don't know that you'd have to remove all the steel sidings. I'm not a contractor,
Sure.
but those were my thoughts.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can we go back to a picture that shows where their guests would enter?
That's right there.
That's right there.
Yep.
Is there a picture that shows more,
Yeah,
a bigger
if you
picture of that by
go-
chance?
Here, let me help you. Yeah, right there.
Okay,
So this
Okay.
is the north side of the building to try to give some spatial orientation. I don't know if that really helps or not.
okay. So that's where your guests would come in,
Correct.
okay? Because, the side with the
Yeah.
glass doors, I love.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think in the summer months and the spring months, if you put a lot of flowering, big planters and things like
Yep.
that, that would help, but it is a bit plain on that side. But I don't think there's a need to remove all the metal siding. That would be a huge expense.
It's massive. That's why I have this concern. That's why, for the last 3 months, I've been trying to have conversations about this.
Yeah.
Because when you go into this project and you have a thought process in mind, and this is my process has now come to fruition, and it's being appropriately criticized, but I'm at the point where I was the inspiration, the developer, and I've done what I've done. And so I'm asking as specific of guidance backwards to say this, 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 and this. And I can probably do some of those things. But to say, hey, let's just revisit this in a year as you try to do this, we're going to be right here back again in a year. Potentially with you all. I don't know how the city is run in terms of whether your committees change or not in a year. I'm going to re-explain all this again. And then that's where we're going to be. So I wanted to create an indoor green space in the middle of winter so that people could come when it is barren outside. And it's going to look barren whether I have more plants or not. There's going to be more plants. But in the middle of winter, what's the key is what is this indoor green space that is, in my mind, phenomenal and unlike anything in Wausau.
I think the inside is beautiful.
Yeah, that was the heart of what this is.
It's absolutely beautiful. Did your contractor have any suggestions on the outside that he thought might
I had
dress this up a little bit?
I had to convince him to do what we did because he said this stuff is not going to stand the test of time. And he's like, this is going to be a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And I said, I want to improve upon this so that we have a good picture right now. And he's like, this is how these buildings are made. And when you get water damage over time, they're going to need to be constantly replaced, restained, et cetera, et cetera. So that was his thoughts. We talked about a lot of different options in terms of the facade. And the part of that is where do you start and where do you stop? That's what's really hard. So you have entryway in the north side. There's some fencing that's there that helps to break that up. But do you stop at where the entryway stops, which is, like an 8-foot entryway? That height is like 30 feet high. So you take the wood all the way up. Do you stop at the level of those overhead doors, which are 18 feet high? That's a hard optical thing to do. Obviously, we can get, people who are experts to draw and mock that up. But if you mock it up and it doesn't look good, I don't know.
Is there a way that something can be done that isn't attached to the building? My thought was, Edison lights and then something decorative that's up against the building but not necessarily attached to it. I've seen places that do that. And that a contractor necessarily wouldn't have to do, but maybe somebody with artistic talent.
Sure.
And that way you're not worried about replacing the siding, which I don't think needs to be replaced. Like I said, looking
It's nice
at the glass doors, it's beautiful. But if there could be, like I said, Edison overhanging lights and then something artistic that doesn't necessarily have to be attached to the building, which would be, I think, a lesser expense for you, and not having to go out and find contractors, which I know personally is difficult to do. Try finding them in the North
That's entirely
Woods.
why we're stuck in this situation. We're stuck in this situation because I wanted this project to be done earlier, and that's my fear and anxiety of going in. My Joey Ninneman has been phenomenal. The fact is if I talk to Joey and talk about projects to do, we're back at the bottom of the line again, and so. And again, there are definitely what you bring up are simple things, and that's going to happen naturally with just this business being open. We're going to try to beautify this as much as possible. With the fence that we have there, we obviously don't want it just to look like a fence. We have plans and ideas. I don't know how in a development agreement that's actually an easy way to have a legal checkbox the way that occupancy was.
I'm
It's
just,
so vague, and especially when the development agreement is supposed to clarify exactly what to do. That's kind of what I'm looking for, is some exact things. But
yeah, I'm just wondering if it was ran past somebody that had art knowledge, whether it be metal sculpture or something like that, that would withstand the weather,
sure,
kind of like the birds out on Stewart.
Sure.
That could be fixed to the concrete on the bottom, so you wouldn't have to worry about them walking away.
Yeah, I understand.
But wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg to have it attached to a building
Yeah.
that it would cause harm to.
I understand that, yeah.
Just a suggestion. I'm not an artist
No,
by
I
any
appreciate that,
means.
Victoria, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alder Henke.
Thanks. I think you've done a great job here.
Appreciate it.
As far as the outside, in my opinion, keep a fresh coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be way better than what was there. And I think personally that would check the box for me. A sculpture or something wouldn't hurt. What you've done for me is already enough. And then I just wanted to talk about these next dates
Yeah.
in this new agreement. It says December 31st, 2025, exterior upgrades, landscaping with streetscapers, and construction of the greenhouse space. So you're pretty confident you can meet those if you get like a definitive from us.
Yeah, so I've met them, so therefore if you come back to me and say, you know, Matt, you got to do this, this, and this, I'm pretty confident probably so. From what you guys are talking, it seems pretty reasonable. But yeah, again, I can't
Well, and
I can't throw, I have a bunch of different suggestions here, and so if I have to hit all those suggestions, yeah,
And
I don't
that's-
know.
And like you mentioned before, that's us right now in the committee, and if the committee
Correct.
changes in a
Correct.
year, yeah. So I guess, can we modify the agreement to, like, say there's, have a sculpture out there and a fresh coat of paint?
Yeah, I mean, the
And a
committee
couple
has
of
this
plant-
op.
And a couple of planters when the weather allows it.
Yeah, so, I mean, the committee at your meeting today, you have the ability to amend the agreement, absolutely. The intent of item number 7 was that he would present plans, that you would review them and say, yes, so there isn't a guessing game of, is this enough, is this not enough? That's the intent of that. We understand that the building's not going to look completely new, completely different. That's not the intent. But this was put in place to give him the opportunity to engage an architect, somebody along those skills, because I don't think any of us have the skills to design a building, as we've talked about. Have that presented to us and find something that's acceptable to allow him to move forward. A lot of good work has already been done. Honestly, in the last 3 months, they've done a lot of work there in terms of bringing in landscaping, bringing in the greenhouse. I saw the fence. The fence is a big improvement on the property to meet what we were looking for as part of the proposal that was submitted.
And then item 9, the solar panels by 2028.
Yeah. So that we specifically put verbiage in, the solar panels exist. So the solar panels that power the greenhouse exist. That's why there's a whole, and again, that one goes back to what was done at the previous resolution as it relates to a lot of the roofing stuff, because I went to the administration at that time to say that as you think of a normal industry with solar panels, the solar panels in my mind would have been attached to the roof. The roof is essentially functioning great. Solar panels have a life expectancy of 30 years. The roof does not have a life expectancy of 30 years. And so solar panels are a massive investment that I was like, well, if we can put some around the facade instead of the roof. And then also, really what I wanted was to have kind of the just its own independent off the grid of the greenhouse. The solar panels exist already. I have to physically install them to the greenhouse, but the solar panels and the battery pack exist already.
Okay.
And I think the whole point of that was because there was a comment about like the roof would likely get fully replaced to like where it'd be like a brand new roof in the next 5 to 10 years-ish time. And that's where that date kind of came on there. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just put solar panels on my roof, so I know.
Yeah, we have
what
it
to
at our
invest.
house too. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I'm actually very familiar with that, and that's why I kind of took a step back of saying this is a big investment that then could very much get ruined when a brand new roof is put on.
Yep.
And the brand new roof is, I have 2 different quotes. It's over $110,000. So you're talking about a massive expense on top of a massive expense. That's why the whole siding aspect of me is starting to get, I'm starting to get a little concerned with that regard, because things that, as a person who's done lots of home projects and even some business projects with the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, it's surprising what contractors are getting now, and it is what it is, and that's the world that we live in, but that's something that, you know, is what it is, and I'm trying to be able to have a good product that is affordable.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I just personally going through it, I know the delays and everything that can happen with solar panels, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you were confident
Yeah.
in the 28 date and that's.
Yeah,
that
I feel
was
good
my main
about that.
question. Okay.
I agree
you.
with Alder Hinkie. I think that the outside looks very nice. I don't think you need to spend a massive amount of money on the outside. I think that, again, in the months where you have flowering planters out there. You maybe some Edison lights or something at night, so although you're not really going to be open that late at night.
Correct.
So,
And the Edison lights, I mean, I'll check on that. That's one of those, like, those lights that are there because it has to do with the fact that they've got to be switched where they're always on, and that could be a hard part.
Yeah.
I'll double check with my contractor, but the lights that serve for the nighttime lighting, I think, are there because of code restrictions, and that's just what it's going to be.
Okay.
I want those to be as beautiful as possible, and I'm pretty sure they're as beautiful as what they're going to be.
okay. And then, like I said, and if you put some sort of an art piece back there or something, I think
Sure.
you're fine, but
Okay.
I don't think it necessitates,
A massive overhaul.
no.
Okay, thank you.
I would agree. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work on it.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I mean, just like with a home, you know, it's adding things, or, you know, it's little by little because you come up with ideas. So I would agree with Alder Hinkie as well. So, and I'm really looking forward to trying it out. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Other questions or comments from committee members? Alder
Randy,
Disselman.
do we have design standards for buildings in the industrial park?
We do in the.
For front,
We do.
front facades and were there any design standards as part of the original proposal with regard to the exterior of this building?
So I'm not an expert on that, but I hear enough conversations to hopefully give you a good answer on this. If
Well-
we were building a new building, there would be design considerations as part of that. With an existing building and a renovation, they don't necessarily fall under any code or ordinance.
I understand, but I'm saying that with regard to some kind of a, especially if there was some kind of promise made with the initial, with the initial proposal.
So I'd really
if
like
there
to
would be
hash that out, because that's really the crux of all this. So we all need to, in this room, as part of the Economic Development Committee, and me as the developer, understand what's in that, and to really have an honest debate about what has not been achieved. Because we're starting to get through things that I'm not disagreeing with, but when I submitted a request for proposal, if I've not met that request for proposal, I feel like now is the best time to start that. And I understand this is probably gonna have to go to Common Council, I'm gonna do it again in Common Council, but that really needs to be known so that therefore I can have potential advocates and all of you to help guide me into what to do. And I don't know what I didn't do in our original request for proposal. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about what I did not do in the original request for proposal? I understand that maybe it doesn't look as good as what we want it to be, but how in the original request for proposal was it conveyed differently that somehow I didn't fulfill that? That I really would like to know.
I mean, we can go back to the August, I mean, we've had that conversation. I don't really think it needs to be rehashed here. We've exchanged emails on that at
I
that
think it
point
does,
in
Randy.
August.
I think that we are at a point now where I've showed you what the project is, and we're talking about how we're supposed to move forward. And so therefore, I need guidance as to how to move forward by saying, and it keeps going back to, well, the original request for proposal. Okay, well then what hasn't been met so that therefore we can do that? That's where we're at.
Well, where we're at today with the meeting is reviewing the development agreement. And that we're having that discussion because you weren't able to meet the deed restrictions at that point. So now we're trying to find a way to solve that problem.
Sure.
Because at that point on August 19th, 2024, you hadn't completed the project per the
Sure.
proposal.
Sure, fair enough.
So I mean, in terms of what we're talking about the development agreement.
Okay.
So going back to that, from what I'm hearing from the discussion, the main point is the exterior facade. I haven't really heard anything other than that in terms of concerns from the committee.
Sure.
So I think if we get back to that, we find a way to resolve that, I think that we'll have a great project here and we can move on and enjoy it for the community. So are you opposed to bringing forward a plan set that can be approved by the Economic Development Committee and Council that provides you with a plan to move forward as well as the city?
My plan set right now is that it's as it is. What is the timeline for the plan set? So basically, for me to meet with essentially the people that what I would need to meet with is I'm looking at my contractor somewhat, but like Revi, I'd be looking at potentially some design teams.
You asked about
I work well under a deadline, you know, and so.
And the
so if
development
it's
agreement
like
provides
we'd
a
like to
deadline.
have a plan in place by January, maybe I could do that.
So the development agreement provides a deadline for completion of the exterior upgrades by December 31st, 2025. So between now and then, you would have to have that approved by the committee and council, and that gives you, if you did that in January, February, March, whenever that is, that gives you that entire time from that moment forward to complete that by December 31 of 25.
Okay, so then what I need clarity of is if I come to committee with my plan and that plan is not approved, what happens?
You'd submit a new plan.
Okay, and if that plan's not approved and now we're December of 2025, what happens? I need to be very clear on that. I need to know that if I come with a plan to committee and then council that does not get approved, what happens?
She's got a question.
I just wanted to say, I feel like you're anticipating the worst. And the committee tonight has expressed a real positiveness toward what you've accomplished. And the building is, what you've done is beautiful. And I think the things that were suggested were not things that were maximum projects.
Sure.
I think they were things that were fairly minimal just to beautify, or not even beautify, but make that side of the building a little more attractive.
Sure.
And I don't think they're things that if you have until the end of 2025 to accomplish, that's going to be an insurmountable task.
I completely respect that, but and I understand, as a physician who goes into the operating room, and you have to plan for the worst always, so that's what I'm trying to figure out here. And I know, I'm not trying to sound confrontational with planning for the worst, and it's not my expectation to fail. It was not my expectation to be standing here right now. I just want to know, because as part of a legal agreement that's supposed to provide more clarity, that's clarity that I'm asking and seeking, is, because again, from how I see it, I have to come to you all, and then I have to go to Common Council. So if this passes in economic development, but then doesn't pass in Common Council, obviously we take those recommendations, but I don't know what happens if it doesn't. I'm just asking that. What happens if it doesn't?
It would be my thought that if you listen to the suggestions that are being made, they're fairly minimal.
Sure.
And I can't imagine that if the ED committee says, it looks beautiful, that they'll take it to council, and council's going to say, no, it's not good enough. It just feels like these are reasonable suggestions.
Yeah, so can that be incorporated into the agreement? What we're talking about tonight, why is that not incorporated then into the agreement?
We're not here tonight to debate what shouldn't be in the agreement. We've had these conversations for a long time. If there's something specific to the agreement that we want to amend, or specific language that the committee would like to add, that's something that we can have added in.
One of the things I thought of too is you're building a green space.
Correct.
Okay. On the front, where you have past that door area, and I have no idea what the cost of something like this would be, but tear up some of that blacktop or that asphalt that's next to the building, put down some bark or whatever.
Yeah.
And plant some shrubbery, some greenery along that side
Sure.
to enhance the idea that it's green space. If you add some greenery on the outside, it ties in with the greenery on the inside.
Sure.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a plus. Again, for me, it's just throw some more greenery out there, because that will solve the problem of it looking plain.
You will beautify it.
Right,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
would solve the problem of it looking plain or industrial by having some blooming greenery out there that, in the summer months would
Yeah.
just, as you said, beautify it some more. And, because I don't think that anybody on this committee is looking for you to spend an additional $250,000.
Okay.
That's not the thought process. It's just doing a little bit of beautification to the outside that can be really not come in at more of a minimal expense. I think if even a landscaper came out there and said, hey,
Yep.
these are some good ideas for this space that, will regenerate year after year after year and would work well there. I think that might be, bring Revi or somebody in there to give you some greenery ideas to that side. And for me, that would be great.
Perfect, thank you.
If I may, Steve Lebowski with Ruderware, Counsel for Ash Properties. Just to clarify some of the thoughts, I think, when we were speaking a moment ago about the agreement and what can be incorporated, we have seen drafts of the agreement. We've also had discussions tonight about specific proposals, like some of the ones you've shared with us. And I think what my client is looking for is just, again, the process of getting to this point, the resources expended to this point. I mean, all of you have seen this project kicked around for a long time, and we'd like to have as definitive a plan as possible as we move forward. As we're looking at whether it's some of these suggestions or others that haven't been mentioned tonight, to the extent that those may be incorporated into an updated version of the development agreement through an exhibit or something else as an attachment that provides my client the specificity he's looking for. I think that's really all we're suggesting. Not to scrap the agreement, not to start over, and not to be accusatory of anybody. We've been very pleased with the committee's suggestions tonight, and I think we're excited about getting to a point where everyone can enjoy this space. But with that in mind, I would just ask the committee again, if there is the opportunity to have that kind of integration of an additional amendment, and I recognize that may take a little additional time to take shape.
I believe Randy wants you to come back with a plan of what, bring it to the committee. I guess my suggestion might be on that is to talk to a landscaper, see what they might be able to do on that side, and bring that back to us. And I think we're all going to be quite reasonable about the expectations, but that would be my suggestion, is to talk to a landscaper, see what they can draw up for some greenery, some beautification on that side, bring it back, and let's go from there.
Alder Hanky? Oh,
Go ahead.
or, Randy.
Just a suggestion as we're moving forward, because I think based on when we started this discussions in September versus where we're at now, a lot of items have been completed, specifically the items that were due by the end of 2024. It may be best at this point that we ask the developer to bring forward a design for the exterior facade. We put these discussions on hold, allow him to bring that forward, approve that, and we can include that as part of the agreement.
So that was going to be my comment. December? Could you do it by December? Would you want January?
I can't, no, I'm sorry.
No,
There's absolutely no way. Probably by January. I mean, that's hard. Probably so. So I've worked with Revi in the past. That's probably who I would utilize in this situation.
You just said you worked well under deadline, so I wanted to give you a deadline that you could
I
accomplish.
do appreciate that.
Your end
Yeah,
is kind of a bad thing.
I've worked with Tyler and Dave at Revi, and I can likely come up with some sort of plan for you guys. When we talk January, we're talking January Economic Development Committee meeting.
Correct.
Can we do February? Sorry,
Sure.
because the month of December is completely shot from me from a work perspective, and so I'd be really hitting that hard in January, and I can come in February.
Sure. So I would move that we table this until February and ask the developer to bring forward a plan that we can all agree on and have something
Yeah. Well,
set for December 31st.
Yep.
thank you.
Does that, is that
Okay.
appropriate for you gentlemen?
Yeah, absolutely. We, again, appreciate your flexibility.
So motion by Alder Henke to
Motion.
table this until the February ED meeting, Economic Development meeting. And is there a second? Okay, by Alder, yes, Tierney, thank you. It's been a long week, believe me, and it's only Wednesday. Anyway, second by Alder Tierney. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion is approved then.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up then on the agenda is agenda item 4, discussion and possible action on commercial rehabilitation loan policy amendment. Ms. Stratz.
Thank you. In your packet, we have a couple of changes that we are looking for our commercial rehab loan program policy. For some of you that, it's been a while since we've had a commercial loan come to us because we haven't had any funds. This past year, or actually I want to say maybe even end of last year, we received a couple of loan payoffs, so we now have some more funds that we can lend out. Our original commercial rehab is for facade renovations. Primarily, we want to make businesses look more attractive. It started with our downtown area, and then as we accomplished most of the buildings downtown, it grew towards citywide. So any commercial building can qualify. Again, it's mainly for facade renovation, but then we can do other code issues like ADA, bathrooms, heating upgrades, electrical stuff. But if it's interior, carpeting, drywall, stuff like that, they have to do that on their own. And this is a gap financing mechanism. We don't want to be the primary lender, nor do we want to compete with the banks out there. There's plenty of lending opportunities out there, but we are the gap to make that project come to fruition. So we're looking at what can we do differently, and in the proposal, I think there's a bunch of highlights of what we added and things that we crossed out. Since we put this in the packet, we actually came, Marianne and Randy and I had spoke about the financing terms, and she recommended that rather than play with interest rates, we should just say that we will lend 1% above what the borrowing rate is for the city, and that way it's very clear depending on what the rates are out in the community. And that way, again, we don't have to bring it back every time we want to change interest rates. Other than that, did anybody have a chance to look at it? Any questions?
Alder Gisselman.
You have design standards, do you not? Certain things fit within certain facades, and you just sort of have a standard set of what should be happening with regards to the current facade.
We have, yes. They are older from when we first started this program, but yes, we do have them.
You know, because certain things fit within certain buildings, certain facades and that type. You do have those standards. They are sitting in the city.
They are sitting in the city,
Thank you.
probably above on my credenza.
Alder Killian.
One question, Tammy, has anyone
Oh, you're
Microphone.
Has anyone recently, knowing that these are available, applied for these at all?
We haven't accepted any applications yet because we wanted to make sure we had specific guidelines before we accepted anything, before we just talked with anybody. But I've got 2 people waiting to hear what happens after tonight's
Oh,
meeting.
good. Okay, thank you, Tammy.
Alder Tierney.
I just have one question. I see that in the second paragraph, it says funds shall be maintained and monitored by the Community Development Department. and you've erased or removed projects reviewed by the city's Economic Development Committee or Finance, depending on timing to move. So you would be sole ownership of this and nobody else would be reviewing this?
In the past, we brought them to the committee, and it was more on an advisory level. It wasn't whether it would be approved or not. It was more of, okay, this is the application, this is what we're looking at doing. So it was more advisory. There wasn't a motion passed or anything like that. And it took up a lot of time for the building contract or the commercial building owner, because going through economic development, going through historic, it would take us like 2 months putting them on hold. So if we had the ability to do like our other loans, our homeowner rehab, our rental rehab, our lead, we've got so many loan programs that we just keep them moving so that they can keep moving. We thought if we could have that ability to move these projects along faster, but then still report to you and let you know what properties are being rehabbed with our funds, we would appreciate it, and I know the borrower would appreciate it. Because we've had hiccups in the past that it took 2 months for us to approve a loan. And then some of them actually lost a contract. One of them lost a contractor because we took too long.
Other questions, comments? Alder Hinkie.
So it says semi-annually, would we, if there was nothing, you'd just say?
There's nothing.
Nothing, but yeah. Do you have any ideas what dates or what months would be easiest to do that, or do we want to get that specific?
We could, you could say, June and December, or we could just, it really depends on, Randy was looking back at the last ED meeting that we had a couple of commercial rehabs, and what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's wild.
And we actually had 2 of them, and I'm embarrassed to say I was pretty excited. But then it dried up, and because we lent out all the money. And what Marianne also noticed is that with the city's funds of $500,000, that this was, 10 plus years ago, that the city put in $500,000, and those funds said that they were supposed to go back to the general tax base or general levy, thank you. But we've been recycling and recycling and recycling because we kept having more and more requests, and the more loans we lent out, look at the downtown. I think we touched almost every building downtown, which is what it should do. If we didn't continue to recycle it, we would have no funds. So we're going to bring this back to finance just to make it appropriate, make it that we can keep recycling. I want to say we've lent out these funds probably 3, 4, 5 times.
I just see semi-annually this missing a month, and then we forget about it, and then we don't get any updates.
Sure.
I think if we put a calendar reminder out there where we say June and December.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Alder Tierney.
How much of this loan money have we lost from, obviously, people?
That's a very good question.
Holding bankruptcies.
To date, well, we haven't, we have lost, the one on Third Avenue, the Wausau World Market.
Yeah.
And Bull Falls, Bull Falls was a TIF. That was in commercial rehab. There is a couple of them that are delinquent, but the rest of them are in repayments, or the properties are in for sale. Like Thrive was a difficult loan for us to get paid back, but they sold it, so we got our money back. So yes, unfortunately, we do lose some sometimes.
Other questions? Alder Hinkie.
I guess I would make amendment to change the semi-annual to say June and December.
Okay.
just
go ahead.
if we could do like March and September.
Sure.
Just with December, there's a lot of times that gets lost in the wash.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think keeping it away from budget would
Yeah.
probably
Oh,
be
that's
a
a good
better
idea.
idea.
Sure. Okay.
So March and September, is that what?
I will amend my amendment to be March and September.
Okay, and just before we go ahead, Alder Gisselman, did you want anything in regarding design standards, or you just,
Just a query, that's all.
yeah, okay. So, do you motion to amend then? Or do we need to do that?
You wanted, it's up to you, it's up to you, Chair, but I made an amendment.
Yeah, so I guess,
It would be good to have a motion for the amendment for both the terms for the reporting as well as the interest rate that was discussed.
oh, yes, okay. Okay, so do you
I'll
want,
start with an amendment to change semi-annual to be March and September, economic development meetings.
and can we wrap that right up, in that amendment with the interest rate?
And I will also have the interest rate percentage be 1% above what the city current borrowing limit is.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Alder Henke, is there a second? Okay, Alder Killian, thank you. So a motion to amend the updates to be in March and September, and then 1% above the current interest rate into the program policy changes for the commercial rehabilitation loan program. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, so that is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We
I
gotta
will
go
make
back
a
to the
motion
motion.
to approve then.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so
That's not
then
it, Randy.
a motion to approve,
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agreement or policy. Sorry.
okay, thank you. Thank you for the help. Is there a second? Okay, Alder Tierney, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, so that motion is approved. Okay, so moving on to the next, number 5. On the agenda is an update on the infill development on Thomas Street by Mr. Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Chair. Wanted to give everybody an update on this as it's been a long ongoing process. Going all the way back to, I believe it was August of 2023, the city of Wausau submitted a WAM grant, Wisconsin Assessment Monies grant, to the DNR. We were under the understanding, based on our conversations or based on the conversation that was given to us, it would be a 6 to 8 week turnaround to determine if we would receive said grant. We did receive the grant, I believe it was in March of this year in 2024. Over the summer months, April to, I will say, August, the DNR was working to find a contractor to perform the work. So once you're awarded the grant, the DNR is really the one that sets the timeline and movement in place. So they needed to find a contractor to come out and do the phase 1 for those different parcels. In September of this past year, the Wisconsin DNR contracted with Ramble, I believe they're out of the Milwaukee area, to perform the phase 1 environmental assessment on the Thomas Street corridor project through that WAM program. Their work predominantly took place through October. We did meet with them, Tammy and myself met with them virtually. They've come and perform on-site inspections and viewed the sites. We provided them with our government records, mostly meaning when demo permits were taken out on the property, anything that we had from an environmental perspective from an environmental engineer. Talked to them today. They have submitted their phase 1 environmental report to the Wisconsin DNR, waiting for the DNR to review it. I asked just about some initial review and what we were to expect, if we're to expect that we'll see a phase 2 on all sites. They were optimistic that not all sites would require a phase 2 analysis, but they believe that some will require a phase 2 analysis. So if you remember back to our whole crazy chart of how we're getting through this process, I think that's a pretty good outcome from what we were hoping for. in that we should be able to start looking for projects for those sites, hopefully within the next 3 to 6 months. I hate to give a timeline out there at all, because anytime we presented a timeline on this project, it's far exceeded what we've been told would happen. So that's the update on the Thomas Street environmental component. I'll ask Tammy to provide the update on where we're at with infill.
Well, I'm sad to say that after 3 times putting a bid packet out, this last time we were promised that we would have at least 1 bid come in, and when push came to shove, we received nothing. So this last time we asked the contractor, who said he was definitely going to submit something, why he didn't, and he said he thought that the bid due date was a week later than what it really was. So take it for what you want. I talked to Mid-Wisconsin Homes. They're a modular home company in Dorchester that I had toured last year. And I talked to them at the time, and they thought this was a great opportunity for them to provide their product for us. However, we can't work directly with them. We have to work with a contractor who takes their product and then puts it on a lot. So that's what we were trying to do. So I reached out to her and said, so what are we doing wrong? And she said, I didn't even hear that this was going on. Our contractors, I don't know what's going on. Let me do some digging around and see what I find out. I haven't heard anything because the bids were due last week, Tuesday. So we're still trying to investigate. Every time we had a conversation with the contractors, they said, well, it was too broad. You need to narrow it. You just need to put 1 lot. You just need to say, I want this, this, and this. Don't give options. So that's what we did, and we're still here.
Yeah. And one of the things that in kind of stepping into, because I wasn't really involved in this process when Liz Brodick was here and she was working more with Tammy on it. And you'll remember some of the different meetings that we had. We had neighborhood meetings and different things like that. And trying to tie it all together and how we got to this modular home. And Tammy, if you can explain why we've gotten to it, why we're looking at the modular home compared to a stick built.
There's a couple of different things. The modular homes, they can make look just like the designs that the neighborhoods came up with. With the modular home, it's supposed to be less expensive. However, it's supposed to be higher energy. And the great part is we can use block grant into purchasing the modular home. Typically with block grant funds, you can't do new construction. So, but you can buy a package, a home. So we'd be able to put our money farther out. We'd be able to do more projects if we're able to tap into the block grant funds versus just using the ARPA funds. And we've got a couple of other, they're called home funds, which are federal funds that you can do new construction with. So that's why we were hoping to go down that road. If we do the stick build, it's going to cost more money and we can't use block grant.
Yeah.
So that was the idea behind it. And HUD is actually pushing for the modular home style because they are more energy efficient and they are a little less expensive. But I guess
Yeah.
we can't convince contractors
Yeah.
to do it here.
Just one, and, so I've been having conversations with Mayor Denny and how we move this forward. We're going to do a little more digging, as Tammy talked about as well, to figure out why this isn't resonating in the community. We may go out one more time along this path to see if we can uncover what we're missing. And if not, we'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board. We're committed to getting something done. There's a lot of different ways we can do this, but we'll continue to keep moving forward. I would love to have something done. So this first infill was actually, or the first, or the most recent RFP that we had out was for West Bridge Street. The idea is if we can get something moving there, that we can then continue this project on Thomas Street.
Exactly.
Alder Tierney?
I know that you said you've worked with Dorchester Homes. Have you reached out to any other modular home builders,
The one that
Stratford Homes? or-
Stratford Home was the gentleman that was going to put in a bid. It was a Stratford Home
Okay.
one. When I contacted people with Wausau Homes, they didn't seem too excited. There's another one in Dorchester, which is interesting to me that there's two in Dorchester. They sounded, when I talk to them, they sound interested. But once it came to putting something on paper, and they never had questions, I'd reach out and say, hey, does this make sense? Do you have questions? What can I answer? Oh, no questions. So I'm at a loss. I don't know. Are they truly that busy that they don't need the extra work? With the packet that we put out, because of the federal funds, there's language in there that I'm sure scares them. When you see that, you have to do equal opportunity, you got to do all these things, and they don't quite understand it, I'm sure they shy away from it. So it's easier to work for the general public.
Alder Killian.
Hi, Tammy, having been in the real estate industry for many years, I've seen many modular homes and understand that the specifications in the manufacturing facilities are very stringent, but I also know that there are some manufactured homes that have a higher standard than others, and I'm just hoping that if we decide to go with a manufactured home, that's investigated and we know that the standards that they have are appropriate and good. That would be a concern because I have seen many modular homes that I didn't think their standards and specifications probably were as good as they should have been, and people have been very unhappy, so.
And the interesting part, I'm glad you brought that up too, is I'm getting quite the education because through HUD, modular and manufactured homes they said it's the same thing. When you talk to the contractor, it is not. Modular homes they come in sections, kind of like the blanker developments. They are built in factories and they bring in portions of it. A manufactured home is the typical mobile home type that you see, but it is placed on a foundation, so now it's a single-family home. So I'm learning a lot too, and when it comes to a modular home, there's specific terms that you need to use, which Bill Hebert helped me a lot with that too, and so I can truly appreciate that. I went into it not having a clue. I have more than a clue now. Not an expert.
Oh, it takes a long time. One other question, the individual who said he was going to put in a bid but missed the deadline, is there any way of encouraging that back?
Yes, we had talked about that, and not that I don't want to do that, because I think we probably will. My concern is if he was really excited, he would have had it in. If he can't make deadlines, how is he going to treat us through the process then? So that's my only concern.
And I don't know the circumstances of that individual or
Right.
who it is or anything, but I thought, I've missed deadlines in my life, and, if it was a sincere effort and a missed deadline, it probably doesn't mean I didn't miss every other deadline in my life. But,
Right.
possibly, you would know that better than I, but
Well-
just wondered, if that was something to pursue. Thank you.
We are talking about that.
All right.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Oh, Alder Killian.
One other thing to Randy and Tammy, because of the extensive process that the residents went through with the infill lots and literally, I don't think I've ever seen residents provide so much time and energy in any project. And I have questions from them periodically about what's happening.
I
And
bet.
I would really appreciate it if the two of you would keep the council updated as, a little bit more regularly. So if there's any movement forward or anything happening, that we would have that information so that when we're asked questions, we can provide the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we do get a bid in, or bids, they get opened at Board of Public Works, but then we would bring them to you so that you could see what we have. And we were truly hoping that we would have something for you tonight, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think to Alder Killian, to your point, I think you'll see, and I'm hopeful that you'll see something coming forward, because once the phase one is completed and submitted, that starts a time clock on the parcels that requiring a phase two. And we have 180 days to make a decision at that point, and it'll determine how the Phase 2 cleanup would potentially be funded. We talked previously about transferring those properties to the CDA because that allows us to utilize different funding sources. So hopefully within the next month or two, we'll have an update for you. I'm hopeful by, well, I shouldn't say, just the way our meetings got scheduled with the election and this meeting get pushed back 8 days, I don't know that I'm going to have, frankly, a whole lot of anything for you at our December 1 meeting, which is 15 days away. I don't know that we'll have a meeting, frankly, but by January, I would hope that we'll have something that's actionable by the group.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Then the last, and thank you, by the way, Tammy. So last item on the agenda is I'm looking for a motion and a second to adjourn. Motion by Tierney, second by by Killian. Okay, all in favor? Okay, no opposed, so that motion is passed. We are adjourned. Thank you.